Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. Welcome to my latest video. The title of this one is Big Chill on the Way. And this is an example of one of those colder air outbreaks that occurred across the United States here on the title slide. This was going back to January of 2019. You can see these color schemes here, the purple and especially that darker magenta, indicating bitterly cold air coming straight down from the high north or the higher latitudes into the lower 48. And we have a very interesting pattern on the way. Before we get to that, though, we're going to be seeing so much milder air for Veterans Day tomorrow, Friday, the 11th of November, 2022, as the remnants of Nicole. That transition of Nicole from tropical to extratropical occurs with a storm track to the west. Let's get right to it. All right, so initially we're looking at mild conditions in the short term, generally along the eastern seaboard. Let me get my highlighter out here, my little laser pointer. Okay, so what we have going on for tomorrow, Veterans Day, 11 November 2022, we have the transition of Nicole, or the remnants of Nicole, the area of low pressure, generally in the vicinity of Asheville, North Carolina on Friday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, the 11th of November. The heaviest rain is basically going to be along the track of this low pressure system. The problem is, to the east of this low pressure system, well, the winds blow counterclockwise around low pressure in the northern hemisphere. So we're going to get a very strong southerly fetch of warm, moist, very tropical air. We're going to get an enhanced low-level jet stream, and that's the graphic here on the right, which I'll explain in a moment. But this area here, eastern Carolinas up into eastern Virginia, as well as up towards the eastern shore, this area, the coastal area of the mid-Atlantic, is going to be under the gun tomorrow for potential scattered tornadoes due to this very strong situation as far as this warm air advection. This low-level jet is transporting some very tropical air, muggy and unusually warm for November, into this particular zone. Let's take a look here. This graphic here on the right showing the GFS forecast for the 850 millibar heights and wind speeds, as well as the mean sea level pressure centers. I want you to focus in on these yellows and these orange colors here. Out ahead of that low pressure, the remnants of Nicole, we're going to see a very strong low-level jet at 850 millibars, or 5,000 feet above the ground level, and it's going to be on the order of 45 to 55 knots. Taking a look at that Storm Prediction Center outlook, I read up on that earlier this afternoon, and they have the area of the eastern North Carolina and the eastern Virginia into more of a slight risk for severe thunderstorms tomorrow. What the issue is going to be is this increased spin, or this helicity to the air parcels, generally on the east side of the remnants of Nicole. So again, tornadoes are going to be possible mainly tomorrow afternoon and evening across this part, eastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia. We can get some rotating updrafts on short order, so this is something to keep an eye on tomorrow. So very mild day tomorrow, scattered showers, potential severe low-top supercell thunderstorms across the coastal mid-Atlantic. And then we move on now to Saturday, the 12th of November. And with the 12th of November, here's our current situation here on the left, showing an approaching upper level trough. We have lowering thickness values. We have a surface cold front positioned from the DC area southwest into western parts of Virginia, the Roanoke area, working its way southwest toward northwest Georgia by Saturday afternoon, the 12th of November. In fact, it's so cold behind the front, you actually have rain changing to snow across parts of Ohio, including close to the Cincinnati area as well as northern Kentucky. We got some very low thicknesses in the Midwest, and we still have a little bit of a mild fetch of air over the eastern seaboard for Saturday. We have downsloping winds behind the front initially into parts of eastern Virginia. When you have downsloping winds down the Appalachians, that tends to warm the air mass out and moderate it. So we're expecting highs again in the 70s across the eastern part of Virginia for Saturday. Now, looking at the temperature anomalies over here on the right, the GFS 2-meter temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius, you'll notice this maroon and the orange and the red coloring from the Florida Peninsula working its way northeastward up to the mid-Atlantic, eastern PA, Jersey, New York City, New York State on up to Maine. This is associated with that last little push of mild air hanging on across the eastern seaboard on Saturday. The purple colors, they're coming. That indicates much below normal temperatures. You can see that on the scale here on the right, on the order of 8 to 10 degrees Celsius below normal in some of these darker purple areas to the west, over the Midwest, working its way into the Ohio River Valley on Saturday afternoon. Sunday, big changes. Sunday, the 13th of November, now we have the stronger cold air advection moving in from the northwest over parts of New England as well as Pennsylvania down to Virginia. And so we're going to get some much lower thickness values corresponding to the actual atmospheric air temperatures across Eastern Virginia up through Jersey, PA, again, New York State. So it's going to be much different feel to the air when you get up on Sunday morning, the 13th of November, across the mid-Atlantic. And here are the temperature anomalies on the right, the GFS 2-meter temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius, showing those orange and lighter pink and maroon colors being replaced by this blue shading. And so the purple areas indicate the most significant below normal temperature anomalies. So for example, Sunday, that's up in the northern plains states, so North Dakota, eastern Montana, as well as parts of South Dakota, and another little area that's a little bit more below normal is going to be West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Let's move forward. Bottom line is, after things really change on Sunday, the 13th of November, for the early part of next week for the Eastern U.S., Monday, the 14th of November, Tuesday, the 15th of November, we're going to see the thicknesses remain relatively low. And so, for example, across Eastern Virginia, we're looking at high temperatures only in the lower 50s for Monday afternoon, the 14th of November. Pay attention here also to this feature here over Texas by Monday afternoon. You see there's some blue shading here across parts of the Red River Valley, including parts of southern Oklahoma as well. So we could see a little bit of snow. That's how cold this air mass is right now, extending all the way to the southern plains and working its way all the way to the East Coast up to New England, including the Midwest and the upper plains. We got a 1038 millibar high positioned north of Lake Superior across southeastern Canada. And we've had that continual feed of colder, low-level air in place across the mid-Atlantic for Monday. And nothing really changes Tuesday. If you look at the high pressure systems here to the right, here for Tuesday, we have a 1038 millibar high over southeastern Canada, a 1042 high over western North Dakota. You kind of see with this green coloring here, that's your rain. And you notice how it just works its way towards the east by Tuesday. Starts off Monday, the 14th, over in Texas, and it works its way eastward to the Georgia area, South Carolina, as well as Tennessee. Maybe a little bit of snowflakes mixed in up there at higher elevations in the western North Carolina area on Tuesday afternoon, the 15th of November. The storm track, this is the other thing I want to talk about in tonight's video, is very active. We've got a subtropical jet stream, and so we have these disturbances. The storm track is basically these disturbances are moving into the southern plains, developing, and then slowly working their way east every couple days. So this is the forecast for next Thursday, the 17th of November. We have a 1,016 millibar low off the North Carolina coast with showers extending back into southeastern Virginia, northeast North Carolina. And then we have another system now developing just off of the Texas area there on the Gulf Coast. And look at how cold the temperatures are again. You could possibly see snow down into the panhandle of Texas, including Amarillo, by Thursday morning, the 17th of November. Really impressive. Again, the storm track is generally going to be working its way from the Gulf Coast on out over just off the mid-Atlantic. You see what happens now by Friday, the 18th of November. This storm that developed over the Gulf of Mexico has now got much stronger, according to the GFS model, off the coast of New Jersey. By Friday afternoon, next Friday, the 18th of November, and look at this swath of blue. That snowfall could be pretty significant if this were to pan out. If this forecast model were to verify, you can see your first significant accumulation of snow across western PA, West Virginia, up into New York State. And then you have 5-10 decameter thickness values, extremely cold Arctic air situated next Friday afternoon over parts of Minnesota into South Dakota. Generally upslope flow here around this high pressure system against the Rocky Mountains, and you're getting some snow showers even into Colorado next Friday. Very cold pattern. Here's some of the temperature anomaly forecasts as far as GFS. We'll take a look at that one first. This is for next Saturday, the 19th of November. Blue and purple and lighter pink coloring magenta, that is all below normal temperatures. In fact, next Saturday, the only place that has above normal temperatures will be South Florida, as well as Alaska, which you don't see on here. Looking over here, temperature anomalies, these are in degrees. This was in degrees Celsius for the GFS, showing again very cold temperatures generally across the east, northern plains. Look at the deep south, Texas. You are well below normal for this time of year by next Sunday, the 20th. Looking at the Canadian model forecast for temperature anomalies, this is also in degrees Celsius, showing a little bit of a difference from the GFS. Here's the GFS, and here is the Canadian, showing much below normal Arctic air, generally from the Dakotas westward to Montana, working its way to the west coast. And then there is some below normal temperature, slightly below normal across the Missouri River Valley, the Ohio River Valley, Tennessee River Valley, working its way up the east coast. The only above normal temperatures are along the immediate Gulf Coast down to Florida. If you look at the graphic here on the right, shows the Canadian 2-meter temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius. This is different than GFS. See how the GFS looks all blue and purple, below normal? Well, the same time period next Sunday, the 20th of November, the Canadian has it above normal, actually. Some of this warmth stretching up to the Ohio River Valley. So it'll be interesting to see which model fares better. I do want to mention, though, this is really going to be dependent on the storm track and exact placement of the baroclinic zone, that dividing line between colder continental polar air and even Arctic air to the northwest, and that warmer, moist maritime tropical air to the southeast of that baroclinic zone. Here's the European model temperature anomaly forecast. Look at this. European model is all in, basically. This is next Monday, the 14th of November. Greens, blues, purples all indicate below normal temperatures pretty much across the whole swath of the U.S., with the exception of Florida, where it's near normal. And then the graphic on the right, this is next Wednesday, the 16th of November. Notice this little area of warmer than normal temperatures from the coastal areas of Georgia, the Carolinas, up to southeast Virginia and Delaware. This is really going to be dependent on the storm track. So, for example, if that storm track is an inland track across parts of the Appalachian Mountains and stuff, this area along the immediate coast up to the mid-Atlantic, southeast coast will have a temporary warm-up next Wednesday, if this model verifies, in the warm sector of that cyclone. Okay, so it just depends on the track of these lows. We have a very active southern stream, very active branch of the jet stream here, right there. So we have multiple disturbances moving across the deep south off the coast. Where do these systems go? Do they go further inland and up the I-81 corridor, or do they go further out to sea and off the mid-Atlantic coast? One thing I know we don't have is a negative NAO right now in the North Atlantic, so we don't have that blocking pattern in place. So these systems are going to be more readily able to escape out to sea. I'll get into that more in a minute. And then finally, if we're looking at a little bit further down the road here with the European temperature anomaly forecast. Now these, by the way, the temperature anomalies here are in degrees Fahrenheit. Look at how below normal conditions are. Look at the purple shading here across the central U.S. by next Friday, the 18th of November. And then this is the graphic of temperature anomalies in degrees Fahrenheit over here for next Saturday, the 19th of November. We're talking 20 to 22 degrees Fahrenheit below normal temperatures from Alabama westward to Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, extending northeast into the West Virginia area. 12 to 14 degrees Fahrenheit below normal for Virginia next Saturday, the 19th of November. So this is going to be a pretty good shot of cold air for the majority of the United States coming up. Here's the upper air forecast. This is the European Ensemble Prediction System. Look at this pattern. I posted this yesterday on social media. We have this huge upper level high or upper level ridge that is just extending northward to anomalously high latitudes into Alaska and beyond, into the Arctic region. This huge upper level ridge here. And then downstream of that ridge, you have pretty much northwest flow coming in from the high north, from those Arctic areas, straight down into the lower 48, into the U.S. And look at how much below normal these height anomalies are. These are very low height anomalies. Purple generally showing you the height anomalies for the period. Purple and green showing the most significant lower height anomalies. That's associated with a deep trough and very cold air. And look at this, the graphic here on the right showing you the upper air forecast. Now this is the GEFs. So I have the European EPS on the left, and I do have the GFS ensemble forecast system on the right. This is 500 millibars. These are the anomalies. Look at that ridge extending northward into Alaska with the downstream trough again. Look at this upper level low situated over northern Hudson Bay, and all this flow between the upper level ridge and the upper level closed low, and you get a this is a very cold look. Very, very cold with northwesterly winds extending from the high latitudes right on into the U.S. Looking at this now, this is the stratospheric polar vortex forecast. Whoa! I tell you what, I've been watching this GFS forecast for a while, and it's been real interesting to look at. GFS, this is the 12Z model today on 10 November. This is indicating a polar vortex split by 25 November. And look at where that main daughter vortex is. It's situated over eastern Canada. So this is going to be really interesting to watch. GFS, the last couple days, has been hinting at a split polar vortex, the 24th, the 26th of November time period. Something to keep an eye on. We look at the European model over here, the 12Z midday run European model, and this is a cold look, everybody. This is showing an elongated polar vortex. It does appear to be in the beginning stages here at this particular time frame of a potential split as well in the European model, but more of a elongation. And look at where that main lobe is associated with that polar vortex all the way down to Hudson Bay, Canada. So either way you look at this, whether we're talking a split or whether we're talking the European model here on the right, this looks like a very cold pattern in addition to the upper air pattern as well, going with this polar vortex being in a weakened state. What does that mean? We have a polar vortex split. This is generally what it means. Blue coloring indicating that anomalously low heights. The orange coloring indicating above normal anomalously high heights in the atmosphere. And look at this pattern. It's just a slightly to the east of the current upper air pattern I just showed you for the forecast. But very similar, we have a strong upper level ridge, a negative eastern Pacific oscillation. Yeah, this is interesting. Upper level ridge and a lot of warm temperatures beneath the ridge over western Canada up into Alaska, the northeast Pacific, and then downstream of that, look at how much below normal these heights are and how cold this air is. This is what it looks like in January. This is what it looked like in January 2019 with the vortex split. And these are the actual temperature surface anomalies, basically 30 days after a split, showing much below normal temperatures from northwestern Canada down into the eastern U.S. And so this is going to be real interesting to watch. That's a split. What about an elongation or a stretching, like a rubber band of the polar vortex? What does that do to temperatures? This graphic here I actually found from the Weather Channel. I just took it here and showing you with a weakened or more elongated polar vortex, which we've seen so far this fall, you get more of the jet stream setting up like this from the northwest, and that area of low pressure, the vortex itself, moves slowly to the southeast into eastern Canada. And look at the upper level ridge, again, parked over the western parts of North America. And then this on the right shows you another example of the heights, anomalously high heights into the Gulf of Alaska, and then anomalously low heights into the Midwest and over to the eastern seaboard with an elongated stratospheric polar vortex. So I wanted to show you those differences. Here's a teleconnections forecast based off the European EPS, the ensemble prediction system. For the Arctic oscillation over here on the upper left, generally showing a positive trend, eventually going slightly negative by the last week of November into early December. The forecast here on the upper right for the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, East Pacific Oscillation EPO, sharply negative here as we head in from the 12th to the 16th of November before it starts recovering a little bit closer to neutral from the end of November into December. Bottom left here showing you the teleconnection forecast for the NAO, North Atlantic Oscillation, near neutral state, lack of, basically what that means is there's a lack of North Atlantic blocking into Greenland. So we're not really seeing that in the longer range ensemble. So this backs that up pretty well. And then over here in the bottom right, showing you the forecast for the PNA, Pacific North American pattern, with a near neutral state to slightly negative in late November and as we begin the month of December. Looking at the Matt and Julian oscillation forecast, here's the operational GFS forecast for today. And what's real interesting here is the MJO becomes more active, more amplified, and pivots into phase 6. It could lead to a milder end to November. The MJO is, if the convection sets up in the Western Pacific and we're in a phase 6, look at the temperature composites here on the right. Blue below normal, orange above normal. This is for the months of November, December, January. Look at phase 6 here. If this were to occur and MJO were to become more amplified with increased convection in the Western Pacific, we could see a return to milder conditions as we head towards the end of November. So this is a conflicting signal. Weakening polar vortex indicates usually colder temperatures in the east, but if we have a more amplified, a more active MJO phase into phase 6, that could offset that effect of the weakening polar vortex, okay? So got to keep an eye on things like this. Here is the CFS, Climate Forecast System forecast. This is courtesy of Kyle McRitchie. The CFS disagrees with this operational GFS forecast. If you look at this, showing the MJO to be in the null phase, that small inner circle, all the way out into December. Here are my final thoughts on tonight's video. I have to keep this one short this evening as I have to go take care of something. But I just wanted to cover my main thoughts from what we just looked at together. There's a threat of scattered tornadoes across eastern North Carolina up to eastern Virginia for Friday, the 11th of November, mainly in the afternoon and evening hours. This is going to be due to that roaring low-level jet stream at 850 millibars or 5,000 feet above the ground. You're talking winds 50 knots to 55 knots. Any type of downdraft that works its way or drags that higher wind velocity down to the surface, it could result in some form of damaging winds. That's something to be keeping an eye on for tomorrow. Another mild day is expected on Saturday, the 12th of November. That's due to that downsloping wind effect along from the Appalachians. And so we're not expecting the real change in the temperature to occur until Sunday morning. That's when you're going to see those much colder temperatures throughout the day on Sunday as well. An active southern storm track is going to increase the rain chances Wednesday, the 16th of November, potentially lingering into Thursday morning, 17th November, and a more potent system is possible on Friday, the 18th of November, right into early Saturday, the 19th of November. This could be the first significant snowfall accumulation for parts of New England, Northeast, as well as some portions of the interior mid-Atlantic. The stratospheric polar vortex remains weak, and at a minimum, we're expecting an additional stretching with potential for a split by the 25th of November. This could have significant implications on the long-range pattern as we work our way into December. We have faced most recently a lot of milder Decembers across the Eastern U.S. You know, the way the polar vortex is behaving, the way it is, the intensity of it, that could really play into a colder start to the month of December. We'll have to see what happens, whether it's a split or an elongation or that stretching. But regardless, it will remain in a weaker state. We did talk about the MJO, though. If that were to verify the GFS forecast moving into enhanced convection in the Western Pacific into phase 6, that could act to offset the effects of the polar vortex and actually bring milder temperatures at the end of November. One thing I do know that I did not show you as much on this particular presentation tonight is I look further into the future, and the upper level ridge that is so strong, highly amplified into Alaska, is forecast to break down around the 25th of November. If that were to occur, that would flatten out the jet stream overall. The coldest air would remain further to the north in that scenario. We'd be closer to seasonable temperatures for a large portion of the U.S. But again, there's a lot of interesting things out there that are going on right now. That's all I've got right now, everybody. I want to get a quick update video out tonight. I hope everybody's having a great Thursday, and I hope you're having a great week. That's all I have for now. Bottom line, big chills on the way. It's coming for the Eastern U.S. The air mass change just between this Saturday and Sunday is going to be quite different. Believe me, the feel of the air will be much different. All right, that wraps things up. I Thank you so much for subscribing to the Spot on Weather YouTube channel. Everybody, take care, and until next time, God bless everyone.